Hey guys, this is Mumphy again, here with another install video, and today I'm going to show you how to install the grill lights on the TRD Pro grill. So I've got this installed, now it's time to accentuate it with some lighting. Let's get into the video. Alright, step one, pop your hood. Now that your hood's popped, now you gotta open it up. And do the latch. Alright, now that we got the hood popped, now we're going to head over to the fuse box. We're going to get that popped off. So here's the fuse box. 3 clips holding it on. Just pull that off and set it aside. Now the cool thing is that inside the fuse box you do have some spare fuses and a fuse pulling tool, which we'll use here in a sec to pull the fuse that we're going to add into. Now, you have options on where you want to stick the add a fuse. So, I'm going to show those to you now. And what we have coming on in here, this section, which is actually closest to the fender coming over, is typically where most people tie into. These are your high-low, your low beams left and right. There's another option which is actually right here, which will tie into the ignition, so whenever the truck is turned on, the lights will always be on. So I plan on tying into the ignition fuse, so that way they're always going to be on whenever the truck is on. It's not tied to on-off high-low beams. If you wanted to tie them into, say, your fogs or anything else, you can actually do the splice version of this install, which you won't use the add a fuse to. But I'm going to go with the grill lights on all the time. That look suits me just fine, and I'll show you how to do that. There's also another way of tying in all the wiring, so that way you're not having to hide it in the crease around the box. So I'll show you that. All right, there's a really cool way of tying in to hide all the wires and everything. And now I've got a flashlight on my hat, so I can show you this a little bit better. What we're going to do, and I've already unplugged all the wires, but I'll show you where all this is. Where we're going to be tying into is you can actually pull this section out, and you're going to disconnect this wire, this wire, this wire, and this wire. And you won't be able to get those confused when you're installing them back in, but you will need a little bit of a flathead screwdriver. There's a little tab there to unlock this section here, which actually pulls up and out. And then on the side here, you can actually pull this up and open this side section, so that way you can slide your wire, your add a fuse, up through here without trying to finagle it down the side like some other installs have shown. Well, now that I have all the prep for running the wires done, now I want to figure out where I want to set these. I think I might run into a couple of issues with sizing, so I'll show you what we're going to do with the Dremel tool to accommodate that. Alright, so I've got my 4 lights. Now let's figure out where I want to stick these. Now, this section here, right above the Toyota framing, this section here seems to fit really well. Once I try going to the outside, I don't necessarily want to slide and snap in. So it looks like I'm going to have to do some modifications to these. But as far as these two, I like the larger spacing. I'm going to do 4. You can do 3 and just run them all down the middle. The upper sections as well. Let's just see if these would need modifications. Snap in, yeah. So the row above would also require the section above would also require modification to the light housing. So let's get these out, and I'll show you. We need to modify the housing by trimming these down, just because this space here doesn't accommodate the lights. Alright, here's how we're going to fix the issue of the sizing not working correctly. I've got a Dremel tool. You can use a file or something like that. But what we're going to do is we're going to shave down the housing on the top and bottom here, and then stick it back in to make sure that it fits. Okay, now I'm gonna run and do a test fit. Okay, the other thing that I'm running into is that I may need to shave down the sides just a hair. Alright, we'll do another test fit. Alright, we got a winner. Now let's do the other one. Now you're not shaving down a whole lot on these. Some of these you can see that one side's already a little trimmer than the other. So alright, we got them all installed. Let's check them out. Okay, now after I've done all the trimming, I've got them in the locations that I want. And as you can see, they fit nicely, and that's the pattern that I'm going to run. Alright, now that we got the LEDs installed into the grill, next we're going to start running the wiring harness. And we'll get this prepped as well. So your wiring harness comes with the 4 clips that will tie in to the LED lights that we just installed, with all the wiring, and then we're going to need to do the connections as well. So, as I said earlier in the video, what I decided to do was do the add a fuse. So I'll show you how to connect the wires together. What we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of heat shrink. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that little bit of heat shrink. We're going to make sure that it fits over our add a fuse connection, which it does. Then we'll take our wire, and of course the one thing that I forget is you need a crimper. So get your crimper, and we're just going to tie these together, make sure we got a good connection. Take our crimping tool, our add a fuse. Next, we'll take our heat shrink, make sure we cover those up, and then we'll just hit it with the heat shrink. Alright, now that we got the add a fuse attached, here you can see it got it heat shrinked, did a little bit of electrical tape just on the ends here, So we should have a good strong connection and no moisture is going to get in there to cause any issues. Now I need to connect. I'm going to do a fisheye or a ringlet connection to the negative, so that way I can hook this to the ground. Alright, now we're ready to hook up the negative and all the lights and the antifuse under the hood. Let's go. Alright, now let's figure out how we're going to run this. And this is the driver's side headlight, so I'm going to make sure that I'm not all tangled up here. So behind this air down piece that's right here, I'm going to run this through. Then down back behind the light. I'll bring you on the other side here. So I've routed the wiring harness back through this gap here in this air dam, back behind the opening here in this of the headlight, and then coming out, routing it through here. Next I'm going to route it back behind the battery, down low, and come up underneath this metal piece here. Alright, so my negative wire I need to tie in to my negative that's already here. So I'll do that. And actually what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to trim this black piece back so that I have enough to route this antifuse through the section that I want to in order to tie in to the correct fuse. This whole section pulled up and out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reinsert that into the area and just make sure that that clips in. And now we can reinstall all these to where they need to be. And you won't be able to screw these up because they're all different. So just make sure that you plug these all back in where they need to be. Alright, now that we've got the antifuse installed and everything and all this is put back together, we'll just take our other 10 that we're replacing. Now that we've got both 10 fuses solid in there, and then we'll place it back. Make sure that we're in there. And we can just kind of route that extra wire. So you can kind of see how I have it. We're running through this access point that you can actually pull up if you unclip this, that one, and that one. You can pull this up and then you can access this to run extra wires into the fuse box without having to run it through some of the outlines. Now this is the ignition fuse, so this will be active whenever the truck is on. Alright, now that we've got the fuse box back on, we've got to connect to the ground before we wire up the LEDs to the wiring harness. So the ground for the truck is right here, so it's going to take a 10 mil tighten it back down again. Alright, now let's get the wiring harness hooked up to the LED lights. Alright, now that we've got everything installed on the electrical and on the fuse side, now what we'll do is we'll just kind of tidy up. We'll connect all these to all of the lights, the LED lights, and then we'll clean up the install, just zip tying everything together. And the nice thing about the Tacoma is that you have just a bunch of room back here to really clean up your install and your wiring. So we'll just take some zip ties and clean this all up. Alright, just to show you kind of how I've got it all zip tied up. As you look under here, I've got all the wires kind of running along the top. Just zip tied through a bunch of the holes that the grille has. So that way it's not visible, or at least minimal visibility of the wires through the grille. Alright, I'm ready to start this thing up and see how these lights are. Alright, now that we've got everything hooked up, cleaned, we've got all the wires kind of cleaned up and out of the way. We got all the electrical tied in. We're ready to fire this up and see what we got. So, close the hood. Let's see if we got this fired up right. Great. I like this layout real well. You can always rearrange them if you want to. But yeah, double tap on the ignition without having to start up the truck or anything, and you'll be able to see these on all the time. So thanks for joining me on this install video. If you like it, please hit the like button, share with anybody else looking for a way, looking for a good install video. Leave a comment, let me know what you think. I went with the smoked white LEDs for my grill. Do you prefer the amber or do you like the white? How about the pattern? Everybody's got their own preferences. I'd love to see what you guys are doing to yours. Leave a comment down below and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.